Hello, my name is Anna. Welcome to another English lesson. This is our listening course, but we start with the vocabulary just as usual. Birthday. This is when someone is born. Receive, get. Make a present. To give something as a gift. Favorite. Something that you like most of all. Feed. To give food. Feed on. Eat something. Forgotten. So when you don't remember about something, it is forgotten. Feel. To experience an emotion. Lonely. It's when you are alone and it feels bad. You don't want to be alone. Uh, you want some living beings around you, some people around you. But there's nobody, and so you feel lonely because of lack of people around you. And without looking, it means when you do something and you just do not even look. So you do something without looking, or say something without looking at somebody, for example. What if? So that's when you um, that's when you try to think about something that when you think about certain conditions. For example, you don't have something. You, for example, you don't have a car, and you say, "Oh, and what if I had a car? How would this be different?" Or you, for example, you don't know Japanese. Or what if I could speak Japanese right now? How would this be different? So that's how it is. Then suppose that's when you do these things when something's not there, and you just analyze the possibilities and opportunities, and or for example, when you don't know the reason and you just try to um, think about what the reason could be, and you you consider some certain possible variants. Tart. So this is like a cake. Would like you to. It means that someone wants someone else to perform certain action. For example, I would like you to come to me. I invite you. So you don't say just, I want you to come to me. Let's say, I would like you to come to me. It's just a polite form of talking about desires. Then put away. So put away, it's just like put aside. For example, Molly was reading a book, but then she put the book aside and looked at Jimmy and started talking to him. Then tower. So this is a very tall building. It's usually narrow and it's like a pole, but it's really tall. And tower clock. So these towers are very often with clock, and so when they have clock, this clock is called tower clock. And you know, when there's such a tower clock, it chimes. It means it produces certain sound at certain periods of time. For example, when it's o'clock, and when it's half an hour past something. Sometimes only an o'clock, sometimes half two. So 0 minutes or 30 minutes, like that. And so this sound, this activity is called chiming. They chime. So how long? It means how much time it takes. Now curious. Curious is about the person who wants to know and understand everything and understand the reason of certain things. So it works like that. They're inquisitive and they are very curious. And still, so you remember, you looked at the meaning still as it's evening, but they're still working. Also, he was very excited, but he stood still and didn't move. And now this is in such meanings like however, just like, for example, I love you, but still, could we improve our relationship? So just like everything is fine, but still, however, it could be even better. So in this sense, so our, that's how we call this period of time of 60 minutes. Then change. The change is to transition to something different. it was one way, but then it became to be the other way. And here's an example: to change the subject. To change the subject, for example, they talked about books, but then Lily decided to change the subject and they started talking about languages. No, be about. So this is like to be ready, or just like some certain action is very, very, very likely to happen. It's just right there, so you are not doing it yet, but you're about to do it. It's very, you are very close to this action and to performing this action. Like for example, in such an example, she was about to laugh. So it means that she's not laughing, but you can see it by her face that she's ready to burst out laughing. She was about to laugh. And forgive. It's when something happens and it's not really that good, but you just think about it and you are not angry with that person and you just basically forget about it. You say, okay, let's just pretend that this didn't take place. So you forgive them. Shock. So this is kind of an animal that lives in an ocean, and it's a predator, so it can hunt and eat other fish that are smaller. Swallow. So it's what you do with food. You take it in your mouth, you chew it, and then you swallow it. So this is a process. And so like swallow up, it means that something was really not so small, and you just managed to swallow it, to swallow the whole of it, and like without dividing it into small parts. You just like swallow the whole of it. And whisper means like this. You don't use your voice. When you say something not using your vocal cords, you only use air, and this is why it sounds very quiet, and it's even not so easy to hear it. It's not so easy to hear it because you don't use your voice. You just use breath, but you say the words. So, and this is our vocabulary for today, and we can start listening. I read, you listen. Today is Jamie's birthday. He has received a lot of presents. He's sitting at the table with his new book. Little Kristen is in the room too. She has her favorite doll in her hands. The doll's face is all smeared with jam, for Lily is trying to feed her darling. Jamie the carrot has forgotten all about his little guest. He cannot leave the book. There are lots of pictures in it. Lily feels lonely. It is not interesting to play all alone. Jimmy, he says softly. Jimmy, will you play with me? I won't, the boy says without looking at his little guest. Isn't it your birthday today? Lily asks. Well, what if it is? The carrot says. Why, you invited me, didn't you? Lily says. What if I invited you? What then? Jimmy says without moving. Suppose I go home. What then? Little Lily says, taking her doll and going to the door. Don't be silly, Lily. You're a big girl now. Don't be cross. There's a good girl. You know that there is a chocolate tart in the cupboard for tea. I would like you to taste it, Jimmy says and puts his book away. When will you have tea? Lily asks. We'll have it at 5 o'clock, he says. What time is it now? Lily asks. The tower clock has just chimed 4. Jimmy answers. How long must we wait for 5 o'clock tea? Lily asks. Don't be curious. It isn't nice, the boy says. Still, I want to know, Lily says stubbornly. Well, we must wait an hour, he says. Is it long? How many minutes are there in an hour? The curious girl asks. There are lots of minutes in an hour, Jimmy says. He doesn't know himself, so he tries to change the subject. And how much is a lot? His little guest asks again. Don't ask such silly questions, the boy says angrily. Lily is about to cry. I'm your guest, and you shout at me. You aren't polite, she says to the carrot. Jimmy is ashamed. He comes up to Lily and says, Forgive me, Lily. Don't be angry with me. Let us look at the pictures. Look. What is this? The little girl says. A shark. Have you ever seen a shark? It is a very big fish. Jimmy says. No, I haven't. Have you? The girl asks. Yes, I have. I saw one in my father's book last year, says Jimmy. He is very glad that Lily is not angry with him any more. How big is a shark? Asks the curious girl. Oh, awfully big as this room, and even bigger. A shark can swallow a man. Oh, that can't be, Jimmy. No, that can't be. Lily cries in horror. Why must it swallow a man? Because sharks feed on men, Jimmy says. Oh, Carrot, how awful. Now I'll never go to the lake without you, Lily whispers. Jimmy the Carrot laughs at his little friend. He knows that there are no sharks in their lake, but Lily does not. So the Carrot thinks to himself, I'm much cleverer than this silly little girl. And this is all. And I just opened it up to you. What do you think about this, children? Express your opinion in the comments down below, and I'll be very glad to learn what you think. And I'll see you in the next lesson.